Multiple reports have surfaced talking about some veterans that the Bulls should pick up on the buyout market, but no young players have thought to even be there that teams should pick up. We're going to actually talk about Chemezie Metu in this episode of Bulls Digest and why I think the Bulls would be foolish not to pick him up with their needs right now. I'm your host, Joey Mercer. This is another episode of Bulls Digest. And before we get into it there today, I just want to say that about 80% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and every single time we upload, you will be able to stay up to date with our takes on your Chicago Bulls and all the news that you need to know on them. So without further ado, let's get in the topic at hand there today, and that is young talent on the buyout market. Now, it's not too often that you get young players that can actually be serviceable on the buyout market, but this is definitely a rare case that's happened that I didn't expect to happen myself. I thought that this player, Chemezie Metu, of course, was going to stay with the Phoenix Suns, but they seem to want Bol instead for whatever reason. I guess they kind of like that raw talent, but he's not getting any younger, and Metu seemed like a very solid option for them. Now that he's available, he has been linked to the Bulls, and I really do think that they should pick him up. The article started out by saying, should the Bulls try to sign Chemezie Metu as a potential buyout target? At least one NBA analyst thinks so. So even considering the big men already on the Bulls roster, admitting the retention of Andre Drummond at the NBA's 2024 trade deadline would make such a pursuit unlikely. Bleacher Nation, Eli Schuster writes that Metu big man plays hard and moves well, despite the fact that isn't a threat to score much. Still, the 6'9" combo big will crash the glass and score pretty efficiently around the rim. When given the run to do so, and Chicago would have the time split between the 4 and 5. Chicago Bulls lack true size behind both Nikola Vucevic and Drummond, so I wouldn't mind them using their open roster spot on another big man. And he can technically play both front court positions, writes Schuster. And I think he definitely can play power forward. He isn't a very heavy player. He's about 6'9". We're going to be breaking down everything you need to know on him later in this video, but I do think that it's some good insurance, at least at the center position, but we also do need a power forward, especially with Patrick Williams down. And even if Patrick Williams is in the lineup, it's better to have another power forward there, and Williams should realistically be playing the 3 anyways. The next thing we saw in this was considering he is just 26 years old and can connect at a high rate, enough rate from the free throw line that his outside shot is not beyond hope, we would be up for such a move. There could be better fits out there, but if the interests were mutual, he is young enough to play a deep rotation role for the Bulls. And I definitely have to agree. I mean, his shot's been up and down. It could have to do with the system. He had a solid year a few years ago with the Kings. On very limited attempts from 3, but he is a solid mid-range shooter. So I could expect his 3 to develop still. I just think it takes the right situation. And as a guy to stretch the floor a little bit, but still finish around the rim, that's a pretty good talent on the offensive end. We look at him, he actually has that little tornado there in the yellowish gold color, and that means that he has one of the best deflection rates for center in the entire NBA. He is currently on Memphis, or last was on it, and he seems like a player that is going to go to the Chicago Bulls through the buyout market. Now, his height is 6'8", and he's 225 pounds, but with a 7'1" wingspan. He's 26 years old, and in that trade, of course, that I was very confused of, that Metu went to the Grizzlies, they just simply waived him. So why not just pick him up if you're the Chicago Bulls? As I just mentioned, the positional size isn't as great. As you can see, he would be better suited at the 4, but in a league today where things are getting smaller, you can definitely play him at the 5. When we go and look at more of his stats here, you can see that this season he was putting up 5 points, 3 rebounds, half an assist, half a steal, and only 0.2 blocks. He is definitely not a guy that's going to block shots. Another reason I think he could be better at the power forward position. Only picking up about 1 foul a game, but only playing 12 minutes. So that has to be taken into account. If you're looking at his per 36 numbers, it's pretty simple in multiplication. As you times those by 3, he would be putting up 15 points per game, 9 rebounds per 36, which is about average, but at 51% from the field, 29 from 3, although he is shooting them. But we looked just a few years ago, in 2022, he's shooting 31%, which is not great, but it's showing that he is definitely willing to stretch the floor. He struggled last year a lot at 24%, but the year before was at 35 on just one attempt, let me add. But the mid-range is still very good, and I think in the right system, he could develop that three ball still. I do think he has the right shooting stroke for it and has shown his ability. I just think it takes the right situation for him. And at 88% from the free throw line, albeit once again on 1.2 attempts, still a very solid player that if he's getting fouled, you would expect him to convert, where he is 78% on his entire career. I hope the three-point percentage could go up, but even if it doesn't, I do think that he's a player that can stretch with that deep mid and would definitely be a solid. We're talking about deep rotation players now with Chemezie Metu, and yeah, I think he could definitely make some noise. The next part we're going to look at, of course, is the advanced metrics on Chemezie Metu. We know what he's putting up overall and even per 36, as I just mentioned, and we can see there that his true shooting percentage is actually in the 79th percentile in the league, largely in part to the fact that he's shooting 88% from the line. His shot quality is above league average slightly at 59th percentile. He gets to the line a healthy amount for the minutes that he plays at the 69th percentile and attempts about league average three-pointers for the center position. His offensive rebounding is not very good, largely in part to his height, and then when he tries to create, he turns it over. It's not very good. You just want this guy spotting up, let me tell you. The load management, or the amount of load that he carries on the offensive end, is the 37th percentile, so not that much. Creation, not that much. Portability is just below league average, and his passer rating is not very good. It's almost non-existent. Offense is not necessarily the thing that I'd be looking at with him. This is why I wanted to bring these things up. When we look at his defense, he's actually in the 64th percentile for crafted defensive plus-minus. His deflections in the 77th percentile. That's great. Rim frequency is high at the 79th percentile. Block percentage is about league average, and his rim defense is not very good, but he is willing to get in there, and that's definitely one of those situations. This could have a lot to do with the fact that Phoenix doesn't really have any bigs, and we're having to play him in some situations, but the rim defense is very low, but at least he's willing to get down there. But it seems like he can definitely pick some things up on the perimeter based on the deflections and his defensive turnovers that he causes. 63rd percentile, and still the 63rd percentile on defensive rebounds is still very solid. His versatility is quite high, and he doesn't foul too often. It's almost league average, but a little tiny bit better, and that is a very solid player in Chemezie Metu on the defensive end, and that's something that we could definitely use on the Bulls. Where Drummond isn't the greatest guy on defense, he's still very solid, and Vooch has picked some things up at the rim protecting front for the Bulls, but now with Metu at the power forward position, that could add something that we really need on this team, and if that shooting stroke comes around, he could be an absolute steal in the buyout market that I think the Bulls would be foolish to pass up. Take a swing on this guy, I believe it. We can actually see his usage charts because he's a current NBA player, and his spot up is basically all he does. It's that and cutting, and that's exactly what you want out of a deep rotational big, and you can see that he's matched up mostly against power forwards. So we're not seeing a lot with center, but he actually guards small forwards more than centers, which is why it's important to look into these stats. He can guard the power forward and small forward positions, and that is something that's very versatile as a defender. I was very surprised by those defensive matchup charts, and to see that those matchups have led to the numbers that he's put up is very good to see. I think that's somebody the Bulls need to take. Seems like he could be a defensive presence for sure. Stretch the floor a little bit, and I think the Bulls would be foolish not to pick him up once again. I want to hit the nail on the head with that point. This is your host, Joey Mercer. Let me know what you think about Chemezie Metu down below, or who the Bulls should pick up if not him on the buyout market. It seems as if someone's getting picked up every second day, so they need to act fast. If you did like the video, however, go down, hit the like button below, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.